Is marriage a thing of the past, or is hookup culture the new marriage? And is it okay to have children out of wedlock?
The whole idea of marriage is to kind of be committed to someone, right? So how can hookup culture be the new marriage? Because the whole idea of hookup culture is to not have to commit.
But that's assuming that, you know, hookup culture means you're sleeping with multiple people. There's again, depending on what we mean by hookup culture, but there's just sleeping with someone and not being in a relationship, and then there's being promiscuous and just kind of sleeping with anyone. So if you're, for example, beating someone and you're not committed to them per se, well, no, you would be committed. If you're just beating someone, for example, but you're not in a relationship, is that, I'm assuming what the question meant in terms of, is that the new marriage?
Yeah.
Being with one person and just kind of not.
I think it can be like multiple ways. So it's like you can actually be with somebody but not necessarily have to put a label on it, just to avoid having to put a label on it. Do you see what I'm saying? And then there's being promiscuous, like having sex with as many people as you possibly can just because you can.
Yeah.
But when we put them side by side, like next to each other, like the way we're doing right now, like marriage and hookup culture, doesn't then like marriage also become like a culture in itself? Because obviously that comes with a whole set of rules and expectations that people try to like stick to, and it just doesn't work for everyone. Like,
yeah, that's probably how hookup culture came about, because like marriage is such a high expectation and there's so many requirements to fill, and it's like people get their hopes up to expect something out of it, and then when you can't deliver, it's all just a big disappointment, I guess. So hookup culture is kind of like having to avoid all of that. I reckon.
Yeah, and kind of getting to know what you actually like, as like compared to back in the day when you expected to get married as soon as you meet someone. And hookup culture, I guess it's an advantage that you get to know yourself and other, like what you like and what you don't like, red flags, what you want for yourself in the future, and yeah, and not everyone, marriage isn't for everyone, so.
I'm thinking, do you need hookup culture to do that? Surely you can just date.
It's true, but some people need the urges to do certain things, you know what I mean?
You need to have sex with someone to get to know them. True.
If you got some urges though,
Yeah,
like,
you
just
gotta
gotta
get
get rid.
You know, certain people want to feel a bit loved, but don't want to have that commitment. You know what I mean?
Or you might not even get to know yourself sexually. You're just dating,
It's true.
True, like there's no like thing to say you have to have sex for it to be a hookup culture. I guess dating itself is a hookup culture, so you can date as many people as you want, go as many dates as you want.
So we're not saying the hookup is just sex.
I mean,
It's more like, it's just like, hey, how you doing? Let's go out and eat.
it can be.
That's just the hookup,
I guess it just depends on the people that are kind of involved with each other, no? So it's like you can have your sexual aspects to it, but then you have your more intimate, emotional side to it as well. Do you see
I
what I'm
think we
saying?
should try and like define it. 'cause
Yeah, are we redefining?
I think dating, is actually seeing multiple people, not necessarily like just being solely promiscuous and like sleeping with them, but actually trying to get to know them and seeing which one like actually matched with you. Whereas hookup culture is cool, buying pizza, let's fuck, I'm out.
Simple
Next
as
one.
that.
Yeah, okay.
That's it. What flavour pizza?
Okay, wait, in my head, I see hookup culture as like you go night out, you meet someone, you sleep with them. Next weekend, you go night out, meet someone, you sleep with them. Next weekend, and weekend after
That's how
weekend,
it goes.
you're hooking up with a different person every week that you meet at the club that tickles your fancy.
It depends.
It depends on your lifestyle.
It really
So if you're somebody
depends.
that don't have enough time to really be getting to know somebody, to want to commit to them, to have to, meet up all the time, like, hey babe, how's the day going, or all of that kind of stuff. If you just want to release your urges, have some company, it can be a good thing, but obviously for some people it's a bad thing
You
as
could
well,
meet someone, and you might be intimate on the first day or second day, whatever. But it's happened. Okay, the first week, first week it might happen, but you might actually want to get to know the person. It could be a good thing. I personally think it could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. I respect. I'm just saying. Some people do hook up on that night to do what they want to do, sex, etc. But sometimes they might be like, "Oh, what are you doing next week?" And that becomes dating next week. That's how people meet on different online libraries. If that's the case, or church. You know what I mean? So some people might meet by swiping left on Tinder, you know.
Left is dislike.
Oh, left. Oh, sorry.
Not that. No.
Wow.
I've
This
heard
guy
through the
gets
grapevine.
likes. He gets likes. He gets
days.
likes. He gets
Swipe
likes.
to the right is the preferable one. Just
Well,
saying.
personally, I'm not on it. That's
Yeah.
not
Me,
my
I'm
place.
just saying, I'm just in the middle. Just,
Yeah,
like, I
not where I'm at. I think
Yeah.
marriage, like having a lifelong partner, having that commitment, that's where I'm at.
No, 100%.
Yeah, because I don't know.
100%.
I think the things that and you can say it depends on the kind of person that you are, but I think the way human beings are designed, you can. I think that people just lie. They just put up a front. They say it works for them when in reality it doesn't. That's why you have situationships. Someone catches feelings, and then there's a whole beef thing. But the way you're designed as a human being, it's not supposed to work like that anyway. Hence why one person always gets. You end up feeling it. That's how I see it personally. So I don't think that it. I think it's a culture that people have tried to make normal, but I don't actually think it is normal.
It's not normal. Well, it's not normal at all.
But then at the same time, I think you're speaking from a bias because when you say human beings have been designed that way, understand that like your belief as well in marriage culture, because it's also a culture at the same time. It's a culture, like it's been given to you. You've been raised in that frame of mind, like that's what you know, and obviously like that's what you believe, and there's nothing wrong with that. But other human beings might have gone through different experiences in their lives, like maybe traumas or different things that they've seen or grown up in, that maybe that culture like just fits more, that puzzle piece fits more with their personality. I don't know why, like.
But based on what you've said, surely that would be based on the trauma. So, which is what does happen. Someone experiences, maybe for example, not to get too like specific or touchy, but may experience like asexual trauma, for example, and then that does something to them that makes them want to just
search for love in loads of places.
In loads of places. Surely that's based on that experience, not so much that that's their personality. It's just something that has happened to them that has caused them to be like that. It may not be that that's how they naturally are.
I think what you also mean is, in essence, if you know how the family should be and how you should grow up, like seeing your parents, and if you grow up in that image of marriage, and then you should grow up wanting the same. I mean, like unless your path redirects and then you start liking other things, or you have another choice. But I think I know what you mean.
So for you, is hookup culture a good or bad thing?
I want to a bit with Mariana. It's not for me. Like I do prefer committed relationships, but I have been in a situation similar to like what we call situationships in a way, but that's how I realized it wasn't for me. So, but then again, maybe that was necessary for me to realize what I did want. So I guess it wasn't a bad thing, but it's not what I like, I guess.
Was that like hookup culture in like the way that we're saying, like, because you were obviously focused on one person, like it wasn't like 10 different people that you were like running through.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Maybe it just didn't work like in that way, like a situationship. You're still kind of dating, like.
But it wasn't. It was still hookups, like just one person, but continuous hookups with one person. So doesn't that fall under the umbrella?
I mean, were you trying to get to know each other?
No.
that's a hookup.
I was, but he wasn't. So it was,
Because what I was going to ask for both of you guys who said it's not for you. So what is your process in terms of finding that one person you commit to? As in, because my assumption is that you don't just meet someone, a guy, you like him, and then you decide he's the one person in the world you're going to commit to, right? I'm assuming there's a process where you kind of get to the place where eventually you find out the one person who you're going to commit to. But what is that process for you? If it's not
you date.
quote unquote.
you date, you go out, you cinema or whatever.
But the one person, or
one person, and then obviously if you find characteristics you don't like about this person, you feel like the chemistry isn't there, you start dating someone else, but it doesn't have to lead to a sexual experience.
So for you guys, it has to be one person at a time. You have to date one person at a time.
I can't keep. I mean,
I can't.
It's weird. 'Cause, like, I don't know. Personally, I have this thing where, out of just respect and I don't know, honor for a person, I would rather just like be speaking to someone and dating someone at a time. Now, if it just like Jess was saying, if it happens that we don't gel, we move on. But I don't know if I could do like in terms of like dating, because I would go on multiple dates with one person, so I wouldn't just date one person once. So I can't imagine going on multiple dates with like 3 different people.
But those stages that we want to live that life, you know, we meet someone, we date. Okay, now we're boyfriend and girlfriend. Okay, boyfriend, girlfriend. Wait for the girlfriend to wait for the boyfriend to propose and get married. Really, in reality, them days are long gone, to be honest.
Because it's a culture, like,
you know what I mean?
We're making our own.
Not saying long gone. I'm saying like the stages. Like me personally.
Don't crush the dreams, man.
Sorry, bro. So I'm just trying to be real. I'm just being real with it. I'm just being real. Like, to be honest, you know, I'll say it. You know, based on my experience, I wanted to live that life of like, you know, not even having sex with someone outside marriage. I really was waiting for time that as I grew older, you know, certain things happened with urges, etc. And like, yeah, you know, I've been seeing someone, dating someone, you know, we you know, getting to know each other, we like each other. Out of the blue, bang, she told me the news. You know, she's pregnant. Yeah. So it's one of the things where I felt, oh snap. I thought it was a bad thing, but then again, I look at it as more as a blessing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, you know, we take it from there. We just give it to Jesus.
Can I ask you a question though? Like you two were saying, like in the process of getting to know someone, because at the core of this whole conversation, what we're talking about is sex. Like this is what human
hip-hop culture is sex.
It's sex, isn't it? Like it's what human beings are motivated by, death and sex. So like, like is sex part of getting to know someone? Because the way we have sex in our mind as a society right now, like it's just, you know, it can go so many different ways, isn't it? So getting to know someone, do you factor that in? Like, do we mesh sexually? Like, what's our sexual chemistry like?
But many people have gone through a thing where they have sex and be like, actually,
if I'm going to commit myself to somebody, then in the long run, I need to know your A game's on point, because it's not going to run.
That's top 3 on my list. 100%.
People have gotten cut off because they can't perform.
Yeah, but then this is what I'm saying. If your sexual chemistry don't match, if your sexual chemistry don't match,
I'm not training a dog. It's not going to run.
But I think, sorry. What's that called again? If your sexual chemistry.
If your sexual chemistry don't match, and then you go like, okay, this isn't working, and then you go your separate ways. How can you say like it was just hookup culture when you actually genuinely tried to get to know each other?
No, I get what you're saying.
Wait, I'm confused. But didn't we just say that that's kind of not that hookup culture is just the clubbing like weekend like?
But like.
One night stand situation.
But when you were saying,
let's be real. Hookup culture is just straight up sex, bro. It's straight up. When you're doing Netflix chill, you know what's gonna happen.
Or whether it's like you meet up on a frequent basis, yo babes, what you doing? Like you call each other babes, but it's a hookup at the end of the day because you lots are fucking.
Yeah, that's right. You know what I mean?
It's booty.
It's straight.
Booty, man.
Yeah, it's a booty call. It's a booty call, really and truly.
Nowadays, it's mindset.
Whether you know the person or not, or you know, it's a booty call. Me personally, I don't do one night stands where it's a complete stranger. I got to know you, but you know that is the culture at the end of the day. Yeah.
So for you, is it a good? Because we didn't get to.
To me, the way my priorities are set out and the kind of things the way my life is right now, seriously though, like the way my priorities set out and what I expect from life, I need to know that I'm good at my own self before I commit myself 100%. To somebody else. So to me, hookups are ideal, and 100%. I don't mean in a sense where it's like, oh, I'm going to meet one brother this week and then fuck a next man the next week. It's not that. It's that, you know, it's just somebody that doesn't have to. I don't have to have an emotional attachment to them, and it's more just for me to release my urges, because through what I go through on a daily basis, there's a lot of frustration, and some of that can come down to sexual frustration, and sex is the only way to take it out, really. So, you know, it's like, okay, cool, what you doing? Cool, you want to meet up, and then just get your shit over and done with, really. And then if you want to meet up next week, it's a thing, yeah? But I don't really need to take it to that level where it's like, oh, so what are we? It doesn't need to
After
get
you
to
fin-
that.
after
It
you
doesn't
finish
need to get
this.
to that because I don't even want that. So why am I going to put that onto somebody else? What? Because there's an expectation that we need to be something. We don't need to be something. It can just be what it is.
So
You should
what
write a
you,
book.
what you asked though about
Send it
like
to girls.
the way humans are
Co-sign that
designed,
motherfucker.
yeah?
100%.
Like the way humans are designed, like you said, like,
Okay.
like let's
Not
jump
even
into this.
doing
Like,
that.
you've been talking. You've been talking under again now. Like, do you mean like design, like socially or physically? Because that's a next thing.
That's
like,
the next thing.
people are gonna argue like,
It's
Because physically, you can kind of take
neither.
and
It's neither. I think human beings are spiritual beings, so your spirit is designed to connect with one person in a certain way, and you can try and do it with loads of different people. And in my opinion, you can try and do it with loads of different people and say that works for you, but I don't actually think it does, because even in doing it with multiple people, it's people who aren't trying to even be in a committed relationship are ending up trying to search for that one connection, even if it's just sexually. So that for me, that is even indication that as human beings, there is supposed to be like, oh yeah, I want that person I have sexual chemistry with. Surely that just means that this is supposed to be the one person that you have sexual chemistry with. Like it means it's in it for us to want to be committed to one person. Whether you want to put a label on it or not, I think as human beings, it's an innate thing. That's what I'm trying to say. So for me, hookup culture just seems...
It doesn't rock your boat.
Yeah, it seems,
100%.
weird.
Yeah.
so you get. Do you think like emotion should be part of hookup culture, like? Because we're emotional beings, like you say, like.
A part of hookup
But
culture.
we're emotional beings, like she's saying, like we're spiritual emotional beings, and someone catches feelings, like so.
Yeah, one person
And
does.
that's how you
Trust
know
me,
it's
one
not for
person
you.
does.
That's how you know you should not be doing this. Because
It's true.
if you're starting to get emotions, the other person is like, this is not what I signed up for, then something's wrong.
So do you think it's possible not to do that and emotions not be connected?
Or do you
At
think?
all.
Or do you think it's a lie? Do you think it's a lie?
If you know
do you think
yourself
it's
well
a-
enough, if you know yourself well enough, you can refrain from having that emotional
You
attachment.
refrain,
No.
or do you just like...
I mean,
But you always have emotions. When you
But
can never turn them
but
off,
do
bro.
you
So
do
do you think it's a lie?
yeah,
Like
so you
that
do
there's
things
no
to
emotion.
avoid.
I mean,
I think generally it comes from what you want, innit? If you engage in communication with individuals with the intent to find the one person to be committed to for the rest of your life, then I guess you kind of wear your heart on the sleeve to an extent where emotion's going to be involved. But whereas in your situation where you know your circumstance, you know what going for yourself, you know what you want at this moment in time, you know what you want long term, but you know the process on how you're going to get there.
Yeah.
That's what I asked you guys about the process, but we can talk about that later. But you know the process that will take to get there. When you know your current state and you know what you're looking for, I think then you become, susceptible, or your perspective to certain things then does start to change. For example, for like when you said, like if you catch feelings, that's how you know that the hookup thing isn't for you. Maybe the feelings thing isn't for you. Why is it go down to the hookup thing that's not for you? If that makes sense.
How can the feelings thing not be for you if we are
catching
basically,
feelings,
like,
if you're feeling it,
that's
because you've made yourself open to
Because you've made yourself open, because it's what you want. That's what I'm saying. Because that's what I said. That's why I asked you. Do you get into interactions with men? For example, let's say me and you met today. You liked my vibe. You've then tunnel visioned your focus on me. We date, and all of a sudden it just becomes me and you. No one else matters. Or is it you're open to meeting someone or the person, and then whoever it is you connect with, and you see what the process is. Because the process is still the same. Because, like when you said, for example, like the way humans are designed for one person. We're not really. No, we're not. Like, without sounding vulgar, like your pum pum wasn't designed for one dick. Really and truly, it can take different dick. Really and truly. So physically, generally, we're not. Like, we're not. Like that's the facts. You know what I mean? If it gets wet,
I mean,
dicks could
that's
go
your
inside,
that's
you
your
know what I mean?
that's your
But
fact.
she-
You know what I mean?
She's
That's
talking,
right there, bro.
she's talking like she's
It's kind of
talking
like a yin
spiritually.
and yang thing.
I know,
So it's like you got to
yeah,
find
I
your
know,
yin to your yang.
I still disagree with spiritually because like we are emotional beings. Yeah, I think that people trip up over like connections because they're trying to go through this social processes, like this human social constructs that you're designed for one person.
But I don't think that's a social construct.
But it is a social construct because marriage is.
I don't think that's
Marriage is written law, legalese. Like you're committed to the state. Like there was a time in history where that didn't exist, and it was purely connection with one person. And I get that what you're saying, but human beings have the potential to connect with so many different people. Like we're emotional beings. Like we can connect sexually and energetically with other people, and you can have sex with multiple different people, but if they're vibrating on the same wavelength as you and you're trading good energy, like you can nourish each other, but it doesn't have to be where it is now. Obviously hookup culture can be something different, but I hear what you're saying, like the potential is there to connect with different people.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think that connecting with different people. I think what we have done is, social construct. We talk about social construct so much. I think we've done the opposite thing with hookup culture. We've now began to socialize ourselves to believe that you can connect with everybody, that's on your wavelength sexually. When, again, I'll go back to what I said, as a human being, you are designed like internally. And like I said, because we socialize ourselves, we've suppress that emotion when you are hooking up with people to say, oh yeah, it's not a thing. Like I'm not trying to, I can connect with whoever I want to connect. I'm not trying to be committed to one person. Again, we socialize ourselves to believe that hookup culture is
So do you believe in having a soulmate? So like out of everybody there is on the planet, there's like 7 billion people.
I don't believe in soulmates. I don't believe in soulmates per se. I think soulmates is a weird way to put it, but I believe in choosing one person and committing to that one person. So I don't believe that there's some mystical thing going on and there's an arrow pointing at someone's head and that's your soulmate and you keep going through a bunch of people until you find that person. That's just ridiculous. But I believe your soulmate is whoever you choose it to be. Like you connect.
But doesn't that go back to what you were saying though? Like it's the process. You're going through a process of looking at someone's rough edges.
You see one person and say, boom.
Yeah, but I don't feel like you have to do that. Yeah, I don't think you have to have sex to do that. You can do that without having sex.
Yeah, but then you might have sex and then you might not.
But certain people do have sex and be like, you know what? I like her. I'm gonna take her out next week. That's how I was saying.
Yeah, no, you could do it the other way around, but I'm saying I don't feel like that has to be the process.
No way.
Yeah, because I feel like we have actually made that. It's like, oh yeah, try before you buy.
I don't think
that has to be the process. I think you can get to know someone and connect 100%. With someone outside 100%. Of sex, because when you do end up with that person for life, you're not gonna be having sex every day. One day that person might be old and you can't do it. They might get in an accident. How do you connect with someone outside of the physical thing?
By the way, must I say, I didn't actually get to say my opinion properly.
Yes.
I never actually once said that you should have sex with multiple people.
No.
I'm saying
you should connect with, because my point to you, because what I got from what you said anyways was like you date one person and it's da 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 da. Obviously, me personally, before I've got to a stage now in life where after my
indiscretions.
Yeah, that's just, after a period of time in life where I was living.
You did a mad thing.
Basically, living a bit mad. You know what I'm saying? I came to find out and learn for myself that in terms of before having that physical connection with someone, personally, what turns me on most is actually having that mental and spiritual connection first anyways. So I wouldn't really go out of my way to say I'm going to go out banging bare different girls because really and truly you're kind of mixing all them energy. And again, you do share energy, you do share a spiritual connection. Even if it is just physical, you do share a spiritual connection, and you should really be careful who you're kind of flinging your energy to and whose energy you're taking on. But one thing I do definitely say though, in terms of hookup culture, I know you mentioned it is predominantly sex, but really and truly, why are we tying sex to hooking up? Because really and truly, the feeling that the spiritual feeling you get from sex, especially when you orgasm, for example, is still it's a frequency. It's a particular level of vibration. And if you can vibrate with someone or anyone more or less at that level of frequency, I don't understand the whole idea of I've seen one person, I'm gonna date one person. If it doesn't work, okay, I'll try someone else, because that connection is possible to have with multiple people. Again, choosing to be committed, that's a choice. That's a subjective thing. That's a individual thing, which is why when she asked you about the soulmates, I was going to ask you, when you said, you know, there's not like an arrow pointing at one person, you find someone and you choose to commit to them. I feel like before you get to that point of choosing to commit and spend, quote unquote, the rest of your life with that person, there is a process between that. And I feel like that process doesn't have to be singled down to one person, in my opinion. But that's what
it doesn't have to be, but I guess personally I would rather do it that way. For me, out of respect and kind of like honor for a person, I'd rather just date to get to know someone. If we don't gel, it means that you can have, because I feel like when you do things that way, it means you can have healthy friendships with people as well. Yeah. If it doesn't pan out.
But do you choose your friends one at a time?
No, you don't. You don't choose. Okay, fine. You don't choose your friends one at a time, but I feel like when you start to date multiple people, it can get, for me, it can get messy, and then it becomes a thing where you have bad energy or negative energy with someone you didn't have to have it with because you were doing. Why is
the first thing that came to your mind after doing it more people a bad thing? As in, why does it have to be bad energy? Where did the badness come from?
If you're having sex with these people that you are kind of getting to know all at the same time, it's just, there's a lot. If we're talking about energy being transferred, it's like, I think just in general, how can that be a good thing? As in having so many, emotions, dealing with so many people, and kind of still figuring out what you're going through at the same time.
I get where you're coming from still. It's definitely a thing, obviously, where you leave back energies and you pass on energy when you're obviously
and even having sex with somebody. And if those people are sleeping with other people, it's just, what?
And the way our society is set up at the moment,
everybody's fucking
we're emotional wrecks. Individually as it is, like we're not connected with ourselves. So let's not.
I would just want to do you find it uncomfortable then to be seeing more than one person at a time then?
As in sleeping or just
just seeing. Like just I
mean,
you find it uncomfortable.
I think for myself, it's a boundary for myself. I think I'm a very emotionally charged person.
Okay, yeah.
So when I start to engage with someone, if we really hit it off, then you know that's cool. I'd rather not, then start to do that with other people because then it's like it messes with my head as well because it's like, oh, this guy's really cool and
it's
this
quite
guy's really
time-consuming.
cool. And I'm like, okay, it just seems weird. I'm like, okay, let me try and get to know this particular person. And just like I said, I feel like for me, boundaries wise, it makes having friendships with people slightly easier because we don't hit it off, but then we didn't connect in a way that messes with any of our energies. Yeah. So it means I can chat to you later down the line. We can be friends, even if we didn't end up together.
For me, hookup culture, personally, I think is a bad thing, but what do you mean, like in terms of
for your own personal?
For the personal, hookup culture, is me personally is a bad thing, but you do fall into a trap of like lust and urges, etc. But it could be good for the person in terms of like meeting someone and marrying them in the future, etc. But I'm so in the middle, so that's my opinion, to be honest. So in the middle.
I don't think hookup cultures are wrong. Like I said, I don't think it's black and white. But personally, I know that it's not for me. Like, I do prefer to just meet one person, connect with one person, grow with one person. And I do believe in marriage. So for me, it's not a thing of the past. Like, that's just me.
Personally, I don't think hookup culture is either good or bad because it's subjective. And like, I just think it's just like a production or a mutation of like the way our, the generation before us thought, because they had marriage, the marriage culture was heavily predominant in, their family structure and the way they grew up and everything. And just the way the world's gone, that's kind of broken down. And I think hookup culture is mutated because people are trying to connect with each other, but they're disconnected with themselves. So they're disconnected with the relationships they have with other people, and it comes down to sex, which is what we've been talking about, because that's one of the fastest ways you can connect your energy with someone, and people want that feeling of being connected with people, but they just don't know how to go about it constructively.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Yeah, I just to even add on to that, I feel like hookup culture is something that is prevalent now because people are using it to hide from dealing with their trauma. So a lot of us individually, just like you said, because of the generation before us, we come, a lot of people come from broken households. So, in terms of relationships with other people, a lot of us in this generation have not, the generation before us, we've seen a lot of stuff in the generation before us. So dealing with that trauma is kind of like stunting how we do relationships, which is why we've got the hookup culture, and which is why kind of like marriage is just becoming like a big X. But for me, marriage is definitely still a thing. I'm trying to be a wife that
100%.
That's very cute, Should be a wife, look. So I feel like, in addition to the last 2 points, I agree with you both. No, literally not, but I probably do though. Generally, my opinion of it is very each to their own, and it is very subjective. If you're comfortable doing that, then
cool for you, man.
It's good for you. If you're not, then it's not for you. But don't try and crossbreed in it. Don't be someone who's not down for it and try and be with a guy who is, for example, or don't be a guy who's not down with a girl who is, because that's when you get the discrepancies and stuff. But just in addition to what you said as well, I do definitely feel like as individuals, the first process before connecting with anyone is really finding yourself. Because again, people are dealing with a lot of trauma that sometimes they don't know they've been dealing with. And they do carry that into relationships, they do carry that into connections with people. They also carry expectations as well. And again, those expectations are also based on a bunch of things that they probably don't know they're dealing with. So I think generally, before you connect with anyone, really know where you stand for yourself, and then you would know what to expect or not to expect, or what to have, or you know yourself through someone else, really and truly. And that's me. Done.
Yeah, you basically just said everything that I needed to say, so I don't feel like I have to say anything. But I definitely agree with the last 3 people. It's definitely a subjective thing, it's everybody to their own at the end of the day. If you know yourself well enough to know that you can handle a hookup, and you don't need to kind of prove anything to yourself or to the person that you're seeing, then it's all right. To me, I don't mind it. It is what it is. I know I'm going to get married later on down the line, but 100%. That's not something that's on my mind right now. My mind is my well-being, and